wife was planning to go south with a friend, but I was adamantly opposed. First of all, it would be expensive, and secondly, I knew what they would do there. There would be no supervision or control over them. However, my wife really wanted to relax under a palm tree, bask in the sun, and swim in the sea. She persisted and asked me for money. I refused her request, firmly stating that I would not finance the trip. She seemed to have lost all sense of responsibility. We don't live a luxurious lifestyle, so we need to save money. And then a crazy idea popped into my head. "Let's make a trade," I suggested to my wife. Confused, she asked, "What do you mean?" I explained that there wouldn't be much out of the ordinary to ask. She eagerly asked what I would require of her in return. At first, I thought about convincing her to fulfill her marital duties, but I had a better idea. I needed a mother-in-law. Yes, I needed her. She had been catching my eye for a long time, flaunting her short skirts. My wife was unenthusiastic about my proposal. By the way, her relationship with her mother is not very good. They often quarreled over nothing. Both were very temperamental. However, she had a strong desire to spend time by the sea. Her plan was to stay in a hotel for a week, doing nothing but relaxing and eating pounds of fruit. She finally agreed by the evening. "Okay," she said, "you can try to hit on my mother, but I can't guarantee the outcome." I pondered silently, confident in my abilities. After packing my wife's suitcase and transferring the money to her card, I accompanied her and her friend to the airport and returned home. Upon arrival, I perfumed myself and went to my mother-in-law's house. I was in high spirits and was sure she would not be able to resist me. She is a charming woman, always changing partners easily. So why wouldn't she agree to go out with me? Especially since my wife gave her blessing, albeit reluctantly. I showed up on my mother-in-law's doorstep unannounced, hoping to surprise her. And indeed, upon opening the door, she was stunned. "Where is my daughter?" she asked. "Usually we came to visit together, but this time I was alone." "Your daughter has gone to the sea," I informed her with a sly wink. The mother-in-law either didn't understand or chose to ignore my hint. Women can be quite mysterious. "Well, come on in," she finally said. He entered the kitchen and spread the food on the table. My mother-in-law sighed at the sight. "Why did you have to spend so much money?" she asked. I could see, however, that she was pleased. When we sat down at the table, she quickly placed the meat on plates and took a seat next to me. Then, with a note of concern, she asked, "What brings you here, son-in-law? Do you have some business with me, or did you just drop in as a relative?" I looked at her with a puzzled look, then met her eyes. "What do you think?" I replied. A faint blush appeared on my mother-in-law's cheeks. "I'm not sure," she replied with a mischievous gleam in her eyes. She understood everything perfectly well. She had a temper of her own. Anyway, we ended up where we wanted to be. I can't remember who made the first move, me or my mother-in-law. And what happened next, I prefer not to discuss. Anyway, we had a delightful evening. Called a cab, came home. I lay in the bathtub to gather my thoughts and strength, and in general to rest. I slept beautifully. The next day, I went to my mother-in-law's again. I thought my wife would have 7 days off, a whole week, and I, like a fool, will sit at home. No, it won't work that way. We should have equal vacations, especially since I paid for my wife's trip, and I could have refused. My mother-in-law met me with a smile, happy to see me. She claimed not to remember what had happened between us the day before, which surprised me. She seemed completely confused. I assured her that nothing terrible had happened. We hugged briefly, and that was the end of it. My answer calmed her down, but she warned me not to let her drink too much wine. She said she could do something bad when she was drunk. I rubbed my hands together with joy and started pouring more wine into my mother-in-law's glass. The second night also went smoothly. At first hesitant, My mother-in-law eventually drank more at my insistence. We really bonded. Back home, I thought of my wife. I was glad she was on vacation and maybe cheating on me. I didn't regret the money spent. She deserved a vacation too. No wonder nothing had changed on the third day. My mother-in-law met me cordially, but complained of a headache from the day before. We decided to have tea that day, and I agreed. Despite the headache, she behaved cheerfully and youthfully. I was amazed. The first day was stressful, but ended well. The second day was okay, and the third day was fantastic. I wondered what the next day would bring. With that thought in mind, I headed home, exhausted. After taking a shower, I climbed into bed and fell soundly asleep, a rare occurrence for me. It usually takes me a while to fall asleep, but such was the effect of visiting my mother-in-law. We surprised each other. As my wife's vacation came to an end, the last few days flew by quickly. I had the opportunity to meet with my mother-in-law every day. During this time, I made sure to stock up on groceries, wine, sweets, and baked goods. However, the last day before my wife arrived was particularly memorable. My mother-in-law surprised me by opening the door in a special outfit, and I was stunned. Throughout the week, I had not had a chance to appreciate her figure because of the fast pace and hustle and bustle of our socializing. But now I finally had the opportunity to see her. I must say, she's not bad at all considering my mother-in-law is 55 years old. Her legs are quite slender, although her knees are a little big. Nevertheless, that didn't put me off. I was pleased with what I saw. We repeated the procedure again, but this time with more intensity than before. We both knew that we would never get another chance like this again, and that life would continue as scripted. However, the week we spent together was a priceless gift to us. We couldn't complain about each other's efforts. We had accomplished a lot. It was time to prepare for my wife's homecoming. As I stood in the hallway, my mother-in-law hugged me and told me that she had tickets for a vacation at the lake, but she had changed her mind about going there. The trip was scheduled for the coming week, and she had thought about offering the tickets to her daughter. I thought that was a terrific idea. I wouldn't mind spending another week with my favorite mother-in-law. We have developed a good relationship. So I agreed to offer the tickets on her behalf. That was the end of our conversation. When my wife returned, she said nothing but looked at me with suspicion. However, I maintained an indifferent and bored expression on my face. She didn't ask anything about her mother, probably for fear of what she might hear. She'd had a good time herself. I know what girlfriends do on the seas too. My wife left, and I went straight to my mother-in-law's. She was preparing a surprise for me. I can't even imagine what it's gonna be.